living out your passions with a few lines. Power fuel living, power fuel living.
Welcome. You know, we have all experienced relationships with people who has been diagnosed with cancer, or you may have been diagnosed yourself. We rarely hear about uterine cancer, however, when it comes to women. We hear about the breast cancer. And so CJ Colas is here, and she's going to be sharing her journey and more information about uterine cancer. CJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm very happy to have you because you have set your mind to help women understand and be informed concerning a cancer that we don't really hear about very often.
Correct.
Yeah. So tell me about this journey of yours.
Well, I was diagnosed with uterine cancer in 2016. And uterine cancer, it spread to my lungs. It's not just in one area. So because I was diagnosed and I wanted to do my own research about uterine cancer, I wanted to know what caused it, why I have it, what I can do myself to healing. So I started doing my own research and led me to starting a foundation just to educate women about uterine cancer. I started meeting a lot of new people as far as men that lost their wives due to uterine cancer. Uterine cancer is more like a silent killer. You don't really have symptoms. You don't feel sick. You don't really know that you have it. You can have it in your body for a year and not know it, just like I did. So that's the reason why I started this journey, just to get women to understand, to know the process, to find out what's going on with their bodies, you know, get checked, make sure you know your body as a woman. If something seems different, get it checked, don't assume.
Yeah, so how did you identify the cancer?
Well, I started having a long menstrual cycle and led me to go and asking my doctor what's going on with me having a long menstrual cycle. He said I had fibroids. That's what I was diagnosed with in the beginning. Fibroids I kept going and having more bleeding. It kept getting heavier and heavier. Months on went by. He prescribed me birth control, and it didn't work. It kept getting heavier and heavier. And one day I was at work and I had an accident. It was terrible. I went to the doctor. He did an ultrasound and a pap smear. It came back normal and sent me home with birth control. A month later, the bleeding kept coming, kept going. A month later, I went back. I said, well, it's getting worse. The birth control isn't working. Let's determine what's going on. And he said, well, it seems like your fibroids are growing a lot bigger. And during that time, he said, we need to send you to the hospital to do a DNC. They wanted to basically scrape the bleeding out. When I went to the hospital, they started doing some lab work. They did some lab work, and the lab work came back that I was positive for pregnancy, which was incorrect. So my doctor said, well, I don't believe you are pregnant because we did an ultrasound and a pap smear 30 days before. So let's just do a CT scan to determine what it is that's going on with your body. And I'm sure there's no baby anywhere. So within the CT scan, they found uterine cancer, and it had already spread to my lungs. That's how I found out.
So other than the bleeding, you had no other symptoms? Was there any pain or anything happening otherwise?
No pain, no other symptoms. The only thing I can remember having, I got on a treadmill and I started walking really fast, and I felt like I was aching, like my chest, it hurt, and I was breathing differently. And that led me to thinking something's wrong. It's not normal, because I've done it plenty of times before. So I told my doctor about it, and that's the reason it led me to knowing something else is going on. It's not being pregnant as they assume.
Yeah.
But That's what the blood work came back saying.
And otherwise, your breathing was fine. If
Everything
normal
else.
activity, you had no
working.
sore throat, nothing happening in your chest otherwise.
None at all, none whatsoever.
Gosh.
No pain, no fevers, just fatigue. That's the only thing I can remember complaining about. Often I was really tired because of the bleeding. I kept bleeding so much. But other than that, you don't have any symptoms. Like I said, this is a silent killer. You don't feel sick. You don't feel like there's something going on with your body. This is the only symptoms I had. So I want women to understand everybody body works different. You know, you may experience something different than I did, but just know if you feel like there is a possibility something may change, you need to seek medical attention because you never know.
Yeah, and you mentioned not quite knowing, where does uterine cancer come from? I mean, how does it develop?
Well,
Is it
uterine
just-
cancer can develop in several ways. As far as my situation, with the bleeding, that can turn in from fibroids to cancer. If it stays in your body for a long period of time, that can lead to cancer. So uterine cancer may occur different in your body. It can be from pregnancy that's in your tube that can happen. And a lot of women experience that. I met a doctor, his wife passed away from uterine cancer. She was told she had fibroids as well and kept going, and by the time they figured out it was uterine cancer, it had spread to her lungs, to her brain and her liver, and she passed away within 30 days.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Wow. And I know so many women, but I have never met anyone who has said, you know, I've been tested for uterine cancer,
Right.
or I've been diagnosed with uterine cancer.
Right.
We always hear about breast cancer,
Right.
but not uterine cancer.
Yes.
So how much information is out there when you did your research? How much information is out there about uterine cancer?
Very little.
Okay.
Very little information. You can go and Google, you get the same small information. So I went and asked my doctor a lot of information, a lot of details I wanted to know for myself because I wanted to beat this. I didn't want to just sit back and hear what was told to me. There are different forms of uterine cancer. Mine happened to be choriocarcinoma. So it developed within your uterus and it can spread anywhere else in your body. So people assume you have uterine cancer.
It's going to stay put.
It's just
That's
in
where
your
it's gonna
uterus.
stay. Yeah.
And it's not that way. There's a woman I met, and I had an event for uterine cancer, which I do yearly, and she's been battling uterine cancer for 4 years, and it's in her lungs, it's in her brain. She's been dealing with it for the longest, and at the point you feel like, what treatment, what can we do to avoid it, to
Right,
cure it? You know,
yeah.
this is what I'm trying to fight and get, an answer to. This is
Right,
what
right.
to spread the word. Maybe someone will hear or say there's something we can do, because I've seen a lot of research people are doing to cure cancer, but there's specific research they're doing for breast cancer, for different type of cancer, leukemia, but uterine cancer, you just deal with chemo and hoping that it works.
So that's the treatment option that you
That's the
were
treatment.
given.
I am on chemo and radiation.
Okay, what is that process?
The process for chemotherapy, the way I have a port inserted, and that's how I get my treatment weekly. I get it once a week. There's people getting it twice a week. I met a woman, she get it every 2 weeks. It depends on your symptoms or your stage that you're in. There are people, you don't have to get chemotherapy. You can have surgery and remove the tumor from spreading if it haven't spread. I had to get surgery done and then started chemotherapy afterwards.
Okay. So what was that like for you to be diagnosed with uterine cancer and then find out that it had already spread to your lungs?
It was the worst news ever. At first, after I was told it may be pregnancy, I assumed because I was bleeding so much, I had miscarried. That was the first thing, and I stayed overnight at the hospital, and the next day my doctor walked in. I can tell he had bad news, and he said, it's called choriocarcinoma. You're been diagnosed, you're at stage 3, and this is what's going on with you. Everything else I heard was gone at the door. The only thing I knew was you have cancer. And when you hear that you have cancer, it's like getting a death sentence because you don't think anything else. The first thing, I had an aunt that died from breast cancer when I was about 15 years old.
Oh, so
and
that
just
triggered that
triggered that.
memory, yeah.
And you, honestly, I haven't met anybody in my family that had cancer besides my aunt that passed. So every time I hear someone with cancer, it was always, you're gonna die. That's the only thought I
So
had.
so you didn't have a reference to, okay, I know people who have survived cancer. You know, there's plenty of survivors. I'm going to be the survivor. It went to that, family member, and
Immediately, that's the first thing you think about. I remember calling my husband at work, telling him, and it was dead silence on the phone. And you can hear like a pin drop. He didn't have an answer or something to tell me. The only word I heard him say was, I'm on my way. That was the only thing. He was at work. And that's the worst news to tell someone at work. And I dreaded calling him. It took me maybe 2 hours to call him after I found out. And I thought, I have to call my parents who's out of town and tell them this is what's going on with me. And it's the worst news you can have. But after, you know, the support system that you have, that's what really helps.
Yeah. I have talked to several cancer survivors, and they say that the support system makes the difference.
Makes a huge
the
difference.
mindset and the support system. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
who did you have in your support system?
Well, my husband and I moved here from Florida. We don't really have a lot of family in Tennessee, but my husband, his brother, my sister-in-law, my goodness, my church family.
Great.
I have a bigger family here than I ever thought.
Than you thought, you
Yes.
imagined, right? And that's great, because after you shared, you know, they just came in and said, we got you.
We got you. Yes, the phone calls,
that's great.
the prayers, the visits. I get text messages every day. Even from the time I found out until today, I get text messages. I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. What do you need? I can help. You know, that really helps, because you feel there's people that care, and you really want to fight for this. You want to be here.
Yeah.
And thinking about my son, who at the time was just 2 years old, and I thought, I have a 2-year-old son. I want to be here to raise him. I want to see him grow up and be a man. Those are the things that keep you moving.
Yeah. When did you go from fear to fight?
My fear maybe stayed a while.
Okay.
But I knew I wanted to fight. I always knew how, in the back of my mind, I thought, how can I beat this? How can I fight this? It's always, this is not going to beat me, but I'm going to win. This is a battle, and I'm going to win. That's always been, but like I said, having a support system that pushes me, like my husband, he would push me. Some days I'll get up, I don't want to go to treatment because I know the aftermath of treatment.
What is the aftermath for you?
For me, it's the next day. Some days it's hard. I can't get up and do normal things. It's
so very
nausea.
weak and tired and nauseous.
Nauseous, throwing up. Sometimes I feel like my head, I can't turn it. It's heavy with a migraine. Some days you're just too weak to get out of bed. And I forced myself. I said, you know, I'm going to beat this. It's just a process. You have to have faith. Sometimes I get a phone call from, like I receive a phone call from a friend that I grew up with. And she gave me this shirt.
And I like that, warrior, not warrior.
Yes.
Yeah.
And her and I grew up together, and we really, you know, you lost touch. She's out of state, and we talk every so often. And she said, we in this together. We're going to fight this. You got this.
Yeah.
And that made a huge difference, to know someone, you know, people care. People you haven't talked to in a while. People come back, your family. People really care about you. I have a huge support system, and I'm so grateful for that.
That's great. CJ, was your faith ever challenged during this journey?
I questioned it, because I thought, why me? Not that I wanted to happen to anyone else.
Right.
But you think about what did I do to deserve this? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you were able to get past that and
I
continue
overcame.
strong in your faith. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I overcame that because, like I said, I really have a great support system, and I want to see, I want to fight for it. I want to be that warrior. I want to be able to tell my son, I battled this and I conquered this at this moment. Like my husband he still does and say, you're a superwoman, and that's how I came up with my Team CJ Colas Uterine Cancer, and I have a superwoman logo, and that's the reason why I came up with this, because I feel like I am a superwoman. I can beat this. I can,
Yeah.
if I can conquer cancer, I can
Oh
overcome
my.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of your movement, tell me more about that. What are you doing specifically?
I am working on getting just women. I want to do cancer walks. Started doing networking events, bringing women together and just telling them my story and sharing other women's stories that's dealing with it, that's survivors. And I want people to know you're not alone if there are more uterine cancer patients out there. Actually also have a support group where people can talk about their symptoms, their frustration, what they're dealing with on a daily basis. Sometimes I don't want to get up and tell my husband how I'm feeling, because sometimes I feel like I'm always complaining. But we can talk as women. These women can share their ideas. We talk about, what did you try today for your nausea? You know,
Okay.
let's try that. And we all try different things. What did you do today? Let's try something new. And we rely on each other. It's a private support group. It's confidential. Everybody's information just stay within the group. We don't discuss it outside the group. So it's really good, and it helps because these women telling me, wow, you know, there's a woman, she's been dealing with cancer for a while, and she said, I don't want to tell my sons that I'm not going to be here anymore because she's dealing with it. I don't want to tear up. She's been told that she may not survive it. And it's aggressive. The treatment isn't working for her. So these are the things, you know, you want to be able to support them and be there for them.
How do you support situations like that? People who are experiencing the death sentence, they're being told, you know, you have so many months to live or anything like that. How do you support them without becoming fearful yourself?
It crosses your mind that you may be one of them maybe someday, but you still have that little faith that you hold on to. You still have this small, tiny bit of hope that tells you, you know, there's a possibility, maybe, you know, maybe there's something, maybe. That helps just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
it
I
really
can't
helps.
imagine not trying to hold on to every ounce of hope
Yes.
that I can find.
You can find,
Yeah,
absolutely. I've gone to chemotherapy and met different women, and during that time I would come back and hear, oh, she's no longer here with us. And it crushes you. It puts you in a place where, am I next? You know, but
And how do you overcome those thoughts?
I go home and pray, and my husband and my son, I look at them and think like, I am blessed to have the family that I have, and I'm going to keep pushing and keep fighting. And you have to have something to look forward to. Like you set a goal and you want to reach that goal. So that's your motivation. That motivates me to keep on going. And I know I will come back and tell you I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
I'm done. Yes, because
Yeah.
this is my goal.
Yeah.
This is my number one goal, is my health at the point. Nothing else matters. Nothing else is important.
So tell us more about uterine cancer. What have you learned?
The fact that I have uterine cancer, I've learned that it can spread anywhere in your body. That's the number one thing. I
Okay.
didn't think, when I was told I had uterine cancer, I didn't know where else it went to. And I remember that night, they wanted to test me. They wanted to do more tests to see, have it gone anywhere else, because he
Okay.
said the next place it would have gone was into my brain. So that was the longest 24 hours of my life.
Oh, I bet.
To wait to find out where else is it. So learning that it can spread anywhere, many people don't know about this. So if it's in your brain, that's like having brain cancer. If it's in your lungs, you're having uterine cancer and lung cancer. That's like cancer everywhere in your body, and you have to tackle those. So much I've learned about the treatment. Everybody's treatment isn't the same. It's specifically for your type, your body type. And another thing I learned about treatment, during the first day I started my chemotherapy, a chemo nurse that's chemo certified have to give you treatment, not just a regular RN.
Okay.
So she was getting in full gear, and I said, is that necessary? Do you really have to wear a mask? It was a lot. I've never seen it done that way before. She said, yes, it's for my protection in case it's spilled. It can burn me. And immediately I thought, excuse
She's
me?
protected, but you aren't, and now you're about to receive this.
Exactly. And I thought, well, it's going in my body.
Wow.
What do you mean? And she said, yeah, but don't worry. That she kind of thought I shouldn't have said that. Maybe she made a mistake. And she said, don't worry. This is, people get it all the time. You don't have to worry. In the first 5 minutes, she stood there and watched the treatment. And she said, if you feel like you're burning, let me know. I have to stop it. She said, if you feel like an elephant is sitting on your chest, tell me. I need to stop it immediately, because chemo doesn't work for everyone. And immediately I thought, what am I going through? What is this? Immediately I just prayed and said, God, you got this, and let it work. And I remember her charge nurse came in and said, how is she doing? Is she handling well? And she said, yeah, it seems like her body's handling it well. And that was a relief. That was like, I can breathe. That was the relief.
Amen.
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 Yes.
Yes. How did you feel? You know, you've had all this bleeding. You've been to the doctor. You've heard fibroids, and you've been put on birth control pill. All of this time has passed, and you had cancer growing in your body. How did you feel about that process and not being diagnosed correctly?
That was the main thing that really scared me, because during this entire time, I remember it started maybe early April when I started experiencing the long, heavy bleeding. I wasn't diagnosed until August, end of August. And I thought this entire time cancer was growing in my body. And first I thought my doctor wasn't being very careful. I thought he would misdiagnose me, and I was kind of angry, thinking, how could you not see this? How could you not find out? When I go to the doctor, I don't know what's wrong with me. I want you to find out. I want you to research this. That's your job. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I feel a lot of times you go into the doctor, they ask symptoms. Have you experienced any symptoms? And you just question and say, this is what I've experienced, this, and that, and they run with it.
Yeah.
And now I have a different mindset. When I go and they ask, I said, I want you to find out. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Go deep and research.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's, as women, and you know, anybody,
Yeah.
we need to share our symptoms to let them know why we're there, but
Right.
say, I'm not sure. I need you to figure out what's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when it continues, when the birth control doesn't work, or whatever they give you to fix it,
Yes.
when it doesn't work, go back immediately and say, hey, this is not working. Let's look at something else. Not necessarily let's try something else.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
try something
Right.
else. Let's dig deeper.
Right.
Let's do more research. And that's what I want women to know. I'm trying to get people to understand this process. When you go into the doctor, don't just assume. Don't assume, and don't self-diagnose. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
That's the worst thing.
Stay off of WebMD.
WebMD
I have so, you
will
know,
have you.
it's a good
Yeah.
resource. I do understand that.
I do.
But I
I've done
have
it.
had people call me, text me, ask me for prayer because they have self-diagnosed themselves
Yeah.
on the internet, and they're panicking. It's like, gosh.
Yes, WebMD Google,
Right.
Bing, those
Oh
web
my.
pages will have you start planning your funeral
Yes,
because
yes.
you would lose your mind. Like, you don't do that. And I've done it. I've done it myself. And I would say, oh, wow, this is what it is. This is what I think it is. And you move along. Oh, I'll just go and get a Tylenol. I actually, even I done that when I was pregnant with my son. I was feeling sick, and I thought, what's wrong with me? Pregnancy was the last thing on my mind. And I went to the store and bought a magnesium citrate and thought I had gas, and I thought this will cure it. And I kept it. I still have
Yeah.
it. And then 2 weeks later, find out I was actually pregnant. And
Wow.
it's wrong. And that's the reason
Wow.
why with cancer, you can't, this is something, the earlier that you can get diagnosed, your chances for survivor, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. As we're wrapping up, where can people get more information about this movement and what you're doing?
Sure. You can go on my website, www.teamcjcolas.com. There's a lot of information you can get. You can donate to our foundation to help our support group to help do more research on uterine cancer. I have ton of pictures, information, stories, a blog on the website. There's everything on the website that will teach you about uterine cancer. They will give you symptoms, anything that you need to know. You can actually send me a message and I can respond to you. I respond really quick
Oh, that's
online,
great.
and you can ask anything that you would like to know on the website.
Well, CJ, thank you so much for coming on the show,
you.
sharing your story.
Yes.
I will be praying for you. I'm sure
Thank
many
you.
of my viewers will add
you.
prayers as well. And I am looking forward to hearing your testimony
Absolutely.
of absolute healing.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining me on Power Fueled Living. Stay tuned next week for another great show.
Thank you for watching Power Fueled Living. Here are the fuel points from today's show. For more fuel points and an outline of today's show, visit our website at www.powerfueledliving.com.
Next on Power Fueled Living.
And look me in the eyes and say, Christy Neal, you're going to be okay. You're a good mama. You're a good woman. You made a human mistake. But instead I felt very labeled by my sin.
Sure.
And it was very difficult because everyone loved Christy Neal and how honest Christy Neal was and how fun she was. But then all of a sudden, when I didn't fit that box of what I should be as a Christian mom, a Christian wife, then all of a sudden no one liked Christy Neal.
Need a spiritual refreshing? Join me at the Liberty Through Christ Conference June 23rd. Register on eventbrite.com.
Finding up